the Book Baron. Welcome in, everybody. If you are new here, my name is Baron, and today we are going over my priority reads for 2025. Now, I'm not insane enough to actually have like 25 books on this list like everyone else doing the 25 for 2025. That's more than 2 books per month. I can't have that much required reading for myself. I know me. She's not gonna do it. She's a terrible listener. She likes to rebel against authority, including her own. So we're not doing that. We're sticking to like roughly 10, I think. I actually didn't count. So I'll have to figure that out for the title of this video. My priorities for this year have been to clear off my TBR backlist, get to those books that I've been saying for years that I'm gonna read, and then I don't because I'm saving it or because I got distracted by something that was shiny. I also just need to get all my unreads off my shelf. Like, I want to be down to like maybe 10 by the end of the year. That's a lot of what you're going to be seeing on this list. Without further ado, let's jump into the priority reads that I'm actually going to read this year. I promise. Okay, first up is one that I have been promising people for probably over a year that I'm gonna read and tell them about my experience, and then I just never do it. And it's Desire in His Blood by Zoe Draven. This is the first in an interconnected series. It's somewhere between like a paranormal fantasy, sci-fi, vampire / alien. It lives somewhere in between a lot of different things. So our heroine's name is Gemma, and she's kind of in a tough spot. Her father left behind just this absolute mountain of debt, and she's got to figure out what she can do to save her family, to make sure that they just don't end up completely ruined and losing everything. She makes kind of a desperate move. She agrees to marry this rich, mysterious guy who offers to clear all of her debts in exchange for becoming his wife. Simple enough plan, right? Marriage of convenience. She can do that. But this guy isn't actually just like this billionaire that's looking for a wife. No. He's something called like a Kylor, something like that. These are basically like these really terrifying alien vampire monsters. They've got wings, crazy strength, they fly into rages easily, so that's cute. They, of course, survive on blood. So what Gemma's new husband actually wants is not so much a wife, he wants a blood bride. He expects her to submit completely, that sounds like my nightmare, feed him, how should I say, use her for whatever he wants? This is one that I genuinely have been promising people that I'm gonna read for just eons. It's been recommended to me just repeatedly when I'm like, what should I read to get back into fantasy? Does anyone have any paranormal recs? This one always comes up and I'm like, oh yeah, already on my TBR, and then I just never read it. I think I've always been a little bit nervous because this cover looks insane. Let's be honest. This looks like it's more of like a horror video game than it is alien romance book. It's just intense. So prepping for this video actually was the first time that I ever read through the blurb, so I didn't know what to expect from this, and I think because of that, I just kind of always put it off because I was like not pulled in by the cover. So it was one of those that I could easily be like, yeah, okay, I'll get to it eventually. Oh yeah, when I'm in the mood for it. This is definitely one that I'm determined to tackle in 2025. Next up is another one that I've been promising people that I would read, and it's Tyrant's What's happening? Are you okay? She loses it on camera. Tyrant Alpha's Rejected Mate by Kate C. Wells. So this is a first in a series of 5 books, I believe. I think they're interconnected. Please don't quote me. I know nothing about this series truly. Other than it's shifter paranormal romances, and on Goodreads, this is tagged as Omegaverse. I just don't think people on Goodreads know the difference between Omegaverse and shifter romances. So if anyone can confirm whether or not this is Omegaverse, I'm really curious. So we've got our heroine Una. She's the underdog in the pack because life for females in this pack is garbage. They rank like really, really low, and Una's got a bad leg, and so she's never shifted. So she's like the lowest of the low. Like the women are already not that high up. She's even lower than them. But instead of wallowing, she ends up getting out there. She secretly builds a business. So this pack is run by an alpha named Killian, and he runs things with an iron fist. No mistakes, no weaknesses. Very, very tough guy. So when Una's wolf biology just starts kicking in, she's like, oh, Killian's my mate. So she just claims him in front of everybody, except Killian rejects her because he's like, no, you're the lowest rank. Why? No, that doesn't even make sense. So hence the title, Rejected Mate. Una's like determined to move on with her business, and she's like, whatever, I don't need you, my guy. He is realizing more and more that his wolf is very much infatuated with her and he doesn't know what to do with it. So Killian might have to come to terms with the fact that he's just made a colossal mistake. This one I actually own a digital copy of, so it's been buried in my Kindle for many an eon, and I have promised Lynn from Lynn's Romance Library that I would read this, and every time I'm like, ooh, I'm in a paranormal mood, she's like, hey, I love the Kate C. Wells series. Have you read it yet? I know she'll hold me accountable. And all my friends on Goodreads that have read this book have rated it 4 and 5 stars. So I know this is gonna be a banger. And like I said, I've been trying to get back into paranormal. I've just been hesitant to read this one in particular because I'm kind of like in the back of my mind, I'm like, is this gonna be the one that ruins all the other paranormals? And then they're never the same for me again. We're not letting that happen this year. We're gonna get to it. Next up is another one from the depths of my TBR. It is Phantom by Greer Rivers. So this is a first in an interconnected series. It's like these dark gothic retellings of musicals mostly, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. It's a dark retelling of Phantom of the Opera. This one centers on Scarlet, our heroine, and she is in modern day New Orleans. Don't know how to say it. I don't care. Don't correct me. So she is a sweet girl that's got a little bit of a dark side that no one knows about except for one man, but he witnessed it in secret. Ever since then, he's been obsessed with her. He's broody, he's mysterious, he's lurking in the shadows, protecting her from afar. You know, he's one of those guys. But things heat up when someone from his dark past targets Scarlet. And he can't stay hidden anymore. He can't stay in the shadows any longer. And when she is absolutely at her lowest, like mid-panic attack, this man swoops in and pulls her into his world. And now that she's with him, he's not letting go. This is one that I don't own, but I have been intending to read this book since it released, like 3 years ago. That's ridiculous. It's literally been on my TBR that long. I have downloaded this from KU and returned it so many times. Like every time I take a flight, I download this book and then just don't read it. I don't know why that's such a weird habit of mine, but I'm like, I don't know, throw it on there just in case I don't like my other books. But I have to read it. I have to because I was obsessed with Phantom of the Opera in high school. I mean, the fact that I was obsessed with that, the signs were all pointing to that I was going to be obsessed with dark romance. Like there was no other road for me. This author, it's so funny to me. I haven't read a single thing from her. In my head, she's a favorite of mine. Make that make sense. So I gotta fix that and actually make her a favorite author. So we're starting with Phantom. Next up is one I own physically, and it's Swelter by Nina G. Jones. So this is a standalone. It's like wildly historical. It's set in the 50s. This one is love triangle. Our heroine is caught between two brothers. One that is selfish, irresponsible, careless. She hasn't seen him in years. His name is Bobby. Other brother, that's her husband. She's telling herself all the time that she made the right choice. She picked the right brother. But Bobby, the not brother husband, gets drafted to Korea. They don't hear from him. They assume he's a casualty of war. Like that's how long they haven't heard from him. Then one day during a brutal heat wave, he just shows up at her doorstep. And for some reason, everyone thinks she hates Bobby, but that's not really the case. She is hard on him, but the truth is he broke her heart once already, and she is terrified he is back to do the same thing again. So I have been savoring and slowly moving through Nina G. Jones's backlist because she doesn't write anymore. So what we got is what we got, which is absolutely devastating. She is an amazingly talented writer, but this is one of the ones that I definitely wanted to get to because Emily from the Astral Library actually bought this for me for Christmas like last year, and I didn't get to it. In fact, I think I still have her note in here that she sent with the book. So I definitely want to read this one. I've just been kind of, like I said, I've been kind of savoring her backlist. I don't want to go through it too quick because every single one of her books is such a banger. This kind of fits with my goal to read something that's more historical this year. I mean, this isn't like historical, but like, you know, it is technically history. You know what? Don't come for me. I don't look. Anyways, yeah, this one sits on a bookshelf in my stairwell and it stares at me every time I go past. And I want to pick it up every time I do. So I feel like if I'm just like, hey, it's a priority read, I'll be more inclined to pick it up. Next up is actually one that I've technically already started multiple times, and it's Stay With Me by Nicole Fiorina. So this is a first in a proper series. It's a dark, I guess, kind of college romance with heavy mental health themes. This is about our heroine, Mia, and she has been kind of like misbehaving, and in a last attempt to get her under control, she is sent or transferred to a university in the UK. This is for like the deranged, dangerous, and they treat this school like it's their personal playground. So she's like, I'm gonna keep my head down and get through these 2 years and ignore everybody until Ollie throws a wrench in that plan. He is a green-eyed, tattooed poet that just has a little something about him that pulls her in, but she's kind of a sociopath, so it can only end one of two ways. Either he'll free her from her past, or she'll absolutely chew him up and destroy him. I want to take a moment of appreciation for how beautiful this hardback is. I feel like I do this every time I pull this book out, but Nicole Fiorina does such a killer job. Sorry that the lighting is weird. with her hardbacks, and I feel like they deserve a little bit of extra love. But I bought this entire series sight unseen on a Black Friday sale a couple years ago. The blurb sounds so good, and honestly, it reminds me a little bit of Fabric of Our Souls, but like if the gender roles were reversed, because that one, he didn't feel anything and she felt everything, something like that, which I'm like, that's the reverse of that. I like gothic, dark academia type books. I love anything that explores mental health. I know I'll love it, but again, I've been hesitant to read it because I'm like, if I start reading it, I know I'm going to burn through those 3 books. So if I put one on a TBR, I'm probably going to put all of them on a TBR. You know what I mean? But I've actually technically slowly been starting this book. I don't know how to explain how this happened, but I downloaded the book on my phone a long time ago. Not on my Kindle, my phone. And my vet has terrible service in the building. And because Kevin has been sick a lot this past year, I've been at the vet a lot. And because it's the only book I have downloaded on my phone and I have access to nothing else, I've slowly been reading it on my phone. So I just need to finish it, is actually what I'm trying to say. Next up, I have for you some weird lighting. I'm gonna shuffle over. Basically right now, it's partially cloudy. So the sun keeps going in and out behind clouds, and it's also going in and out from behind the roofs of my neighbors. So like, the lighting's changing constantly. So sorry about that. Next up I have for you Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. So this is a high school sports romance. I think this might be YA or new adults. Someone tell me. Everyone else has read this except for me, so someone tell me. This is about Johnny, and he is a rugby star at his high school, and he seems to have it all. He's got the talent, he's got a promising future, scouts are looking out for him this year. He's kind of under a ton of pressure. Stay on top of his game, literally and figuratively. Enter Shannon. She's the new girl at his school, and she is shy, clearly has dealt with a lot. Got a few hidden bruises here and there. We've got some sadness behind the eyes, and she has a past that she is like desperate to leave behind. But instead of getting that fresh start, she ends up finding herself tangled up with Johnny. And from the very start, they have a connection. It's electric. Boogie, boogie, boogie. Nope, we're not gonna do that. But it's complicated because Shannon's clearly already got enough on her plate, starting this new school, dealing with some bullying. Johnny's trying to deal with his own struggles and live up to all these massive expectations. And the fact that Shannon is kind of becoming entangled with him is just like one more thing that's kind of getting in the way of him rising to the top. So this has been on my TBR for so long. I purchased it once again in a Black Friday sale. For some reason, only the first book in the duet, but not the second. And now these bad boys are out of print. That's how long I waited to read this. So that was a mistake on my part. Once again, the sun's getting weird. But rugby is my favorite sport because I played it in college. Love reading about rugby players because like back when I played rugby, like people didn't know what the sport was. They would come to my games and they would be confused and they'd be like, I don't understand why the ball is going backwards. Nobody understood. And then now it's like become a thing, which makes me excited because it's like, I want to share my love of my sport, but I digress. So many of my friends have read this book in particular and raved about it. My sister at Christmas was like, you have to read it. She's telling me all these lines. She's like, it's so funny. So I'm truly the last person on this planet to get to this book, apparently. But because this bad boy is so thick, I'm probably going to try and pick at least part of it up on audio. Plus my sister said the audio was good. So yeah. Trying to get to at least just the first book. I'm not guaranteeing that I'm getting to the second book, at least this one. All right, next up we have Master of Salt and Bone. Actually, I don't know, Salt and Bones? Salt and Bone. I don't know. It's by Carrie Lake regardless. So this has got like a gothic feel. I've heard kind of mixed things about whether or not it's like fantasy. When I was talking about it with Cynthia like a long time ago, I think I remember her saying that it's like, it's sort of fantasy, but not really. Do without what you will. I don't have any more details than that. Our heroine has kind of had this like fantasy of this knight coming and taking her away from all of her worries, all of her problems, and this awful life and this awful curse that she has to deal with. She gets her wish. The problem is the knight is not quite the guy that she's looking for. He isn't at all what she's expecting. He's scared, he's broken, he's living in this creepy castle by the sea. I think that's probably why we've got the title. The locals are terrified of him and they call him the devil. And it's not like he's like actually doing anything to really prove them wrong either. Things don't go the way she expects. She thought she was gonna be saved, but it turns out she might just have to save him because he, just like her, is also cursed. So this book survived last year's TBR clear out. Speaking of which, I need to do that again because there are some weird hanger-oners that I have left on there. This one survived, and I think I might have even purchased the audiobook. I have read one other book by Carrie Lake, and great atmosphere. great mystery. So the fact that this is like mystery, but then leads maybe a little bit more fantastical. I want to read more fantasy, but I don't want to read a bunch of fae books. This is perfect. This is also just like the very first Carrie Lake book that I remember hearing about. I want to get to like a ton of her backlist. Like I'm so intrigued by a lot of her more like fantasy or kind of gothic books that she's got. I want to get to this one first because this is technically the first one that I was ever recommended by her. All right, next one might come as a surprise. It's Dark Notes by Pam Godwin. This is a taboo romance and it's like sort of student teacher. We have Ivory and her father passed away and left all of his money to her education. So her sole focus in life has been to get into this very prestigious music school in New York City. It sounds like it's like a stand-in for Juilliard. Her family is, kind of reasonably resentful because they kind of got the shaft in that deal. And so they end up taking it out on Ivory. And Ivory becomes responsible basically for paying all the bills. And so she has had to, unfortunately, take up some not so savory ways of earning money. She's just about to start her last year before she can get to this Juilliard adjacent school. In comes a new music teacher named Emmerich, and he changes everything for her. So, I own so many different editions of this book because I adore Pam Godwin. She is my queen for my dark and taboo romances. I trust her implicitly with whatever she writes. This is one that I keep putting off. I've owned 2 different special editions and I own the audiobook and I still keep putting off reading this because I am scared of how much I'm going to like this book. But this is one of the few standalones or series that I haven't tapped into from her backlist. And she did start kind of publishing again after a little bit of a hiatus more recently. So I feel a little bit better about diving into some of the backlist that I haven't touched from her yet. Hopefully this brief pause that I just did will fix some of the lighting issues. But next up I have a book cover I'm not sure I'm allowed to show you, so I'm gonna flash it real quick. It's Dolly by Misha Stone. Okay, we're putting that down. It's a dark romance. I think this probably leans more horror. Don't know if it's captive or captor. I don't know anything about this book truly other than someone described it as a coherent version of Sick Fucks. So I think that it's 2 people who are being held captive living in a cellar together, like living in the dark and kind of desperate to survive. That's what I'm surmising from the absolute perfume ad of a synopsis that is on Goodreads. The reason I want to read this is because I have this absolutely bonkers, intense, wild cover from Dark and Disturbed. It is so highly coveted. But the funny thing is, I never hear anyone talking about the actual book itself, just that cover. It's a short little guy. I'm gonna show the spine of it. Like it's really thin. I usually like to read one intense kind of bonkers read that leans a little bit more horror than dark romance. At least I do that at least once a year. So I think that one's gonna be my read for this year. I'll probably vlog that one because I have a feeling that one's going to evoke some emotions and some feelings. So I definitely want to document it for anyone else who's curious because they've seen that cover floating around. All right, last one that I have for you, Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. So this is a first in an interconnected series. It's new adult college sports romance. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I initially thought that this was swimming because the other cover looks like this. Doesn't that look like he's got a pool in the background? He's got like a towel around his neck and like some swim shorts on, or is it just me? I think it's actually football because I have this cover and it shows a football, so tells you how much I knew about this book before I purchased it. The description on this bad boy is vague, which is probably why I was confused. But basically, what I can tell, the heroine is excited about college. This next bit I'm 100% guessing about. Basically, it says something about how she's always envisioned her future. She's been excited about college, and he's always been there. So I'm guessing it's a high school boyfriend, but it sounds like that person very likely passes away or is somehow tragically ripped away from them. And now she is wrecked and scared and doesn't think she can love again. That's all I can figure out about this book. I actually have owned this book in 2 different formats for a very long time. I don't know when I purchased this. I got this for like $4 and I think I found the audio on sale for like 99 cents, $1 or something insane. I think this has the amnesia trope because Shelby from Spicy Book Nook posted about it recently because she did a post about amnesia trope and her and I love that. And I love that for me. And I purchased this before I knew that. But anyways, I'm just kind of missing like the emotion, the angst, the wish fulfillment of new adult books. So I kind of want to like tiptoe a little bit back into some of that. I just honestly, I'm missing reading Candy Steiner. I probably just need to read more of her books too. This one has stayed on my TBR because I hear about how emotional it is, and I love a book that's gonna wreck me. Yeah, I'm gonna hoe it up for an amnesia book any day of the week, so that's why this one's on here. Those are all my priority reads for 2025. I'm so excited to dive into these books. I feel really, really good about my ability to tackle this priority reads list, especially compared to the list last year, which was like double the length. That was unrealistic. I don't know what I was thinking. I would love to hear from you. What's on your priority reads list for the year? Are you doing stuff that you own physically? Are you trying to prioritize certain genres, stuff that's been on your backlist? Are you trying to prioritize some new releases that are coming out that you're really excited for? I want to know what you're looking forward to reading this year. Thank you so much for being here and spending part of your day with me. Don't forget to like this video if you did happen to like it. Don't forget to subscribe if you would like more content from me, especially if you're a repeat watcher. I see you in my analytics. Just double check that you're subscribed. And I really, really hope I see you in my next video. Bye-bye.